Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar, Environmental Permitting Process and What You Can Do About It. I'm Kelly Pickerel, editor with Solar Power World. And before we get started, I wanted to let you know that slides are available to view at any time in the resource window on your screen. This webinar will be sent to all registrants, so you can view it again. And we ask that you please submit any questions related to today's webinar in the Q&A window. We will try to answer these during the webcast, but if we do not get to your question, our presenters may reach out to you afterwards. And finally, if you're watching this webinar on demand, you can still use all of these features. So let's get started with today's webinar, Environmental Permitting Process and What You Can Do About It. Today's speaker is Laine, who is CEO of Transect. Today, we'll learn more about environmental permitting and Transect's automated consulting platform. And now I will turn things over to Robin.
All right. Hi, everyone, and thanks for the warm welcome, Kelly, and thanks for hosting us today. My name is Laine. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Transect. I'll kick this off by being Captain Obvious, really. There's more land being developed today than ever before across all industries. And in solar, with the energy transition, even more so. But there's a bottleneck. We need land about the size of South Dakota to meet our nation's energy transition goals. But according to the Brookings Institute, the ~1 bottleneck in renewable energy development is the environmental permitting process. Why? Because the traditional environmental permitting process is broken. It's historically dominated by environmental consultants who charge by the hour, artificially inflate the bill. I would know, true confession, I was one. And this bottleneck is keeping solar developers like you from completing more clean energy projects. And we believe it should not be this complicated. One of the first steps you take as a solar developer is to find the right site to build on. And for that, you need what's called a critical issues analysis. The problem is that CIAs can take weeks to months to get from a consultant. And to make matters worse, there's a limited number of environmental consultants who can do this kind of work. And it's about to get worse, like way worse, because we are graduating fewer and fewer of them each year, making it harder and harder to find a consultant whose crammed calendar can meet your deadlines. Plus, you have to compete for their time with all the colleagues in your industry. And this straight up just does not scale. Here's a real problem in the solar industry. You're in a land race. Finding potential land that meets your development goals is already a challenge. And all of that time you spend researching and talking to landowners, et cetera, only 10% of it actually makes it to development, and the rest are thrown out because of environmental issues. So we talk to solar developers like you all day, every day. And here's an example of something we heard the other day. We have a solar developer who said that in order to meet their development goals, they need to develop 25 sites. But to do that, they have to look at 200 potential development sites. That's a total of 4 to 6 months burned on environmental due diligence. And the question we ask is, how many more solar projects could he have completed if he had those 5 to 6 months back? So I want to talk about now how the Transect methodology gives our solar development customers all that time back. But first, I want to talk about what we're not. We are not just another GIS tool. Maybe you have in-house GIS, you use Google Earth, maybe you have an industry data tool that you use to find market information. We feel like those get you to the 10-yard line on finding and executing on a successful project. With Transect, we like to get you all the way over to that red zone, giving you everything you need to know for a successful project and really giving you those months of time back. So let's talk about how we get you to that red zone. How we do it is the Transect methodology. We call it the 3+1. Element 1 is the dynamic environmental risk report. This is that critical issues analysis that drills into not only the environmental issues on a project, but also the why and what comes next. Super important. Element 2 is our buildable area tool. Knowing the risks and steps from element 1, your team can now investigate all of the what-if scenarios. On to element 3. Now that the team has a full understanding of risks and what-ifs, it's time to compile and share the report with others on your team, third parties, things like customizing, sharing online, exporting to PDF. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a minute. So these first 3 elements have pretty much already changed the game for our customers. They've compressed weeks into minutes. They've accelerated the project timelines of more than 100 of our solar development customers. Groups like NextEra, Con Edison, SunPower. They're getting a lot of value out of these first 3 steps. But we've got that +1. What about element 4? We keep hearing customer feedback that it would be awesome if there were tools that would help the teams collaborate, like origination, land acquisition with development and operations. So we did just that, and we added siting and mapping tools that easily go head-to-head with these standalone GIS tools out on the market. To be clear, our goal is not to compete here, but we did want to give our customers a set of tools that allow for team collaboration in one platform. So let's dive into a little bit further what each of these elements are. So element 1, back to that dynamic critical issues analysis for your team to drill into environmental risk, then determine what comes next. It's interactive, it's online, kind of as opposed to those static PDFs that you get from a traditional consultant, and has all the critical information you need for projects anywhere across the US. So we've got environmental infrastructure data, regulations, permits, timelines, recommendations, next steps, and more. And yes, we have a lot of public data sets that you might be familiar with, and that's helpful, but not comprehensive. Doesn't get you down the field, right? So Transect has all that public data, but we also have proprietary data, never before digitized data, data we've gotten in data license agreements. Plus, on top of that, we've got that decades of automated consulting intelligence applied to all of that data, tell you why it's important for your project success, how it impacts your project footprint, budget, and timeline. We've also got a marketplace where you can find additional services like zoning reports and archaeological data services. All right, moving on to element number 2. Now that you have an understanding of kind of the critical issues and how to mitigate for them, your team gets to investigate all those what-if scenarios by changing parameters in our buildable area tools. You can exclude undesirable areas. Maybe you don't want to build on floodplains or in areas of certain slope, in areas with tree cover, prime farmland, whatever. You can add a setback if you want, generate buildable area layer that can be shared with others on your team, exported to a KML, PDF map, that kind of thing. Speaking of sharing, I'm going to move on to element 3 because that's what it is, building and sharing customized reports. You can customize the results of your report by adding or removing content based on your project knowledge. Share the report with others by email invitation, kind of a view-only magic link, or by building PDF exports of the report with custom maps, KMLs, and that kind of thing. So again, that's kind of the original 3 elements that changed the game. And, you know, not to sound like a used mattress salesperson, but whatever, I'm going to do it anyways. But wait, there's more, right? So our methodology is that 3+1, and that +1 is all about mapping and site selection. As I mentioned earlier, as our customers spoke and we listened, after learning about their collaboration needs kind of from team to team, we added a full suite of mapping and site selection tools so that teams like origination and permitting, environmental, operations can all work together in one map, collaborating to find project sites, really keeping all of that shared data on a single platform. It's a map-based tool that's super easy to use. It's pre-populated with relevant data layers like environmental, land, and infrastructure, things like that, and very easy to share with your project team. So sometimes when talking with folks in the solar industry and we mention environmental due diligence and permitting, they say, that's really cool, but we just find the land and we sell it to other major utilities, and it, like environmental really kind of becomes their problem. And we tell them nicely, but we tell them that they're really missing kind of a huge value for their revenue opportunity. First, a buyer's going to pay a premium for parcels that include a Transect report. Think of it kind of like a Carfax report. The more comfortable they are with the site, the more they're willing to pay. Kind of tiered on that. And then second, a buyer is way more likely to take your call before the other gazillion solar companies if you're always bringing them fully vetted sites rather than kind of a grab bag of possibly unbuildable projects. I've actually heard this complaint firsthand from one of our big utility clients, and that's actually why they like and why they subscribe to Transect. So if I've piqued your interest, here's kind of what I suggest we do next. 1, take a moment, close your eyes, don't, whatever you want to do. Maybe take a moment, take a break in the middle of the day. But think about where you want to build your next project. Maybe it's in an RFP response region, it's in a county, something like that. Step 2 is to head to transect.com to schedule a demo to start seeing your project actually in Transect. Step 3, witness the whole thing in real time. You can see how Transect helps you navigate that environmental risk in just minutes. If nothing else, you get a free critical issues analysis on your next project just for demoing the Transect platform and our methodology. So here we are at the end. Thanks everyone for your time. Looking forward to connecting with each of you. Feel free to check us out. Again, schedule that demo on transect.com. And I think now I've seen a few questions coming through, and I think now's the time to move to some of those questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. First question. How long does it take to learn the Transect platform, and what is available for customer support?
Yeah, so it's actually very easy to learn the Transect platform. Most of our people that sign up are able to kind of get their timed value, run their first report within just a day of signing up. But we are also getting ready to launch something called the Transect Academy, so your team can learn at their convenience and actually get certified. And also our customer support team is always available during chat during normal business hours. And sometimes you may reach someone from customer success if you're having a password login issue or whatever, but our technical questions, what does this permit need? I have forested wetlands, I need help. Those kinds of things will actually be answered by environmental folks directly.
Okay. Compared to the reports that come from traditional environmental consultants, how accurate and detailed are Transect reports?
Well, they're extremely accurate and extremely detailed. So, and honestly, likely when you pull a Transect report, you're actually getting a more detailed and more comprehensive report than you would get from, because again, I was one, true confessions over here. I mean, the reason we kind of started this whole platform is because there's a lot of kind of data repetition, and there's a lot of missing things, honestly, when you're a consultant, just because of the pure data research that has to be done for every one of these things. But we use technology to pull from hundreds of data sets, kind of combining that with the consulting logic in the app, which is really what tells you what the data even means for your project. So you have a forested wetland. What does that mean, right? what surveys do you need? How does that affect your project timeline? What permits do you need, right? We can include all of that kind of on a comprehensive basis. So much more comprehensive, I would say, than what you would honestly get in kind of a traditional PDF consulting report. I'll add to that these are considered bank-ready documents. They are accepted by financial institutions for funding. In fact, we have a couple financial institutions as Transect subscribers who use our reports to kind of check due diligence coming in from their applicants.
Okay, like as a summary or review, can you tell us again what exactly Transect does?
I can, yes. So Transect is automating the environmental compliance process, and we started that with the due diligence process, finding sites quickly, and understanding exactly kind of all that Carfax report, kind of everything that could go wrong with that site from an environmental perspective. And when I say environmental, I'm not talking kind of like your deep hazardous materials phase 1 kind of thing. We deal a lot with species, cultural resources, kind of protected lands, archaeological issues, those kinds of things, Clean Water Act, all that kind of stuff. is what we're helping our customers do. And with our methodology, we are really, helping our customers kind of understand the whys and the what happens nows of a piece of property they're thinking about building on. Then giving them options like, okay, if I build on this 50 acres, kind of how does the floodplain, for instance, affect my kind of the footprint that I have to build on, and kind of helps them with that decision-making process.
Okay. So where does Transect get the data from, and how up to date is it?
Yeah. So we have several buckets or categories of data sources. One, we bring in data from a lot of like national and state resources. That's kind of low-hanging fruit. We also have third-party data under data license agreements. We have digitized and proprietary data sets. And kind of the most proprietary data bucket that we have, again, is that decades of consulting intelligence that we use in like the permits and recommendations logic, permits matrix, all those kinds of things, the things that tell you the what now. So again, I'll go back to my example. So you have a forested wetland. So you have a navigable river. So you have an endangered fish, right? What do you need to do about it? Who do you need to contact? How long is this going to delay your project? And what can you do to minimize the impact? Data refresh really depends a lot on the source, but a lot of our data is updated kind of automatically on a regular basis through kind of feeds. Where it can't be automatically, we say here, pulled, our team of environmental consultants, scientists, whatever we want to call them, we're kind of constantly going through and updating the data that's one-off. We have web-based change trackers and notifications that keep us informed of a lot of things like one-off policy changes, species listings, regulation swings, things like that, which are pretty common depending on who's president right now.
Right. Okay, next question. This person, their company is mostly just involved with finding and signing leases for suitable sites. So what value would Transect bring to their process?
Gosh, I feel like a bit of a broken record, but I'm going to that Carfax analogy I mentioned again. Like, I think the question to kind of ask is like, how much more valuable is the land that you're selling if you can prove that it has a clean bill of health from an environmental permitting perspective? Again, we have clients who buy land from folks like this person who asked this question, and they do say, like, kind of that firsthand experience I had a couple weeks ago with one of our customers, they say they'd prefer that sites kind of come with a Transect report or a report like this because they're a lot more likely to buy the land that includes one of those things with that clean bill of health.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up everything. If you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out our presenter on your own. And again, this webinar will be shared with all registrants, so you can view it again at your convenience. So I would like to thank Robin for being here and Transect for sponsoring today's webinar. So thank you to everyone for joining us today, and hope to see you at more Solar Power World webinars in the future. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.